Hey
Yeah,
everybody, this is Harshit from the JustPaid team, and we have Daniel with us again. And in this video, we're actually exploring a new product by Google. It's called NotebookLM. And a lot of podcasters have been a little skeptical about this product because it's a product that could eventually replace podcasters. That's what they call it. It's like an AI podcast, right? So now what we're going to do is we've simply entered the justpaid.ai link into this, and now we just generated it. So the AI basically has a complete understanding of JustPaid website, and now we're just going to go ahead and have a conversation with AI. So Daniel, why don't you try starting a conversation in the interactive mode on beta?
sure. So just so everybody knows, we went to NotebookLM, like Harshit said. We just entered our URL in, and then it generated this whole AI conversation, which is about 17 minutes long. This is what Harshit said we are going to go through. It's so we click interactive mode,
Right.
and let's see what happens. And I'll let you talk to it first, Harshit. So let's press interactive, press play.
Yeah, what happens is once we press play, it starts the conversation, and join, we just join in. So yeah, we can just start off with play first.
All right, so today on the deep dive, we're kind of switching things up a bit. We're not just diving into research papers or news articles this time.
Yeah.
We're diving straight into the minds behind a company that's making waves, really shaking things up in the world of AI and finance. JustPaid. And get this, I'm actually here in the studio right now with Daniel, JustPaid's co-founder, and Harshif, who's a key player on the JustPaid.ai team. So welcome both of you.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have you both here. I
Now
think
we
listeners,
join.
myself included, are really curious about how AI is starting to, have an impact on the way businesses handle their finances.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's be real for a sec. Who actually enjoys dealing with invoices and chasing down payments?
Right.
It's like a universal pain point for anyone running a business, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where JustPaid comes in, promising to take the headache out of, financial operations.
From what I've seen, JustPaid isn't just about.
Would actually have to join in ASAP because
Yeah.
it wouldn't have like a pause section because
They'll just
we
keep going.
exactly.
So,
I'm going to
Daniel,
press
I'm
join,
kind
and
of
then you can
curious,
start to
when you first
ask.
Yes.
JustPaid, what was the biggest problem you were trying to solve? Was there a specific moment that sparked the whole idea?
You hit the nail on the head. It was definitely born out of frustration. Oh, hey there, what's up?
Hey Ryan and Rachel, how you guys doing? I mean, we guys are excited to be on the podcast with you, and Daniel was sitting right here with a black hat, with JustPaid on his hat. It's super cool, right? And just wanted to know, like, how you guys feeling? What do you guys think of JustPaid? Can you like summarize JustPaid in like one sentence?
Let's see.
Well,
Did it?
first off, we're doing great, and it's fantastic to have you tuning in and interacting with us.
Yeah, we really appreciate you sharing your excitement with us.
And a black hat with the Just Paid logo, that's pretty cool, I have to say.
It definitely sounds like something you'd expect from a cutting edge AI company.
As for how we're feeling, we're genuinely excited to be diving deep into Just Paid and its potential.
Yeah, from what we've learned so far, it's clear that JustPaid is onto something really innovative.
Okay, if we had to sum it up in one sentence, JustPaid is using AI to streamline business finances from invoicing to payments, aiming for a more efficient system.
Exactly. Okay, now that we've covered that, let's jump back into our conversation with Daniel and Harshef about their aha moment.
So Daniel, you were about to tell us about the problem you were trying to solve.
Yeah, you said it was born out of something specific.
What's fascinating here is how you saw a need to.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah. So to give you guys a little context, we started the company because my co-founder Analia had this problem, and I saw this problem in many startups where it's really hard to do billing as you. Oh, look at that! It kicked me out.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that personal connection to the problem. It's always insightful to hear the why behind a
So we
company.
should be giving even like a second of pause. We
Right.
just keep going. So that's when it captures.
And
I
it's
see.
so relatable to a lot of business owners.
It's interesting how seeing the same problem across multiple startups can spark the idea for a solution.
Exactly. And it highlights a real need for some.
Let me know when you want to jump in, Harshi.
So Daniel, picking up on that, I'm really curious to hear more about how that initial frustration and problem led to the development of the JustPaid platform.
Yeah, what was the goal? And oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, so it was really it's billing is complex. Like if you have usage-based billing or tiered-based billing, or if you want to just have a simple discount, it's kind of hard to track that when you have thousands of customers. So
Absolutely. And thanks for adding that. It really highlights the intricacies of billing, especially
Simon, does it even feel like we're talking to AI?
There are all these different layers.
what you've just pointed out about the complexity of building with usage-based, tiered, or discounted pricing really speaks to the need for sophisticated automation.
It sounds like it's not something you can easily track with, like a single spreadsheet.
This really hits on a core issue, and it's precisely the kind of challenge that AI can help with.
Right. So with that context, it's a perfect segue to ask our guests what specific pain points lead to the features of the JustPaid platform.
Exactly, because that experience with Nalia and other startups really speaks volumes to what you wanted to
capture an Alia there.
We've already heard about the moment, so now let's talk about what that meant for the platform's features.
So Daniel and Harshit, you both were about to tell us more about the problem, but now let's dig into the solutions.
Yes, like what were the key pain points you identified and how do they translate to JustPaid's core features?
I think it's safe to say that your co-founders issue. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
yeah, so some of the core things that we're working on is the invoicing specifically. So when you have all of these people you want to invoice and you have thousands of customers, it becomes problematic and complex as your sales team starts to swing all these deals and you have all these customers. How do you bill them as fast as possible to get paid as fast as possible? And that's the crux of it. So we're building a lot of features that basically enable for fastest cash in the company's bank account.
Wow. I think you got the drill, right? We just keep going.
Really
Just to
clarify
Yeah,
the core
it's
challenges
cool.
you're tackling with JustPaid. And it really highlights the importance of fast invoicing and getting paid quickly.
Yeah, what's really interesting is the focus on
Maybe you ask one last question.
making sure
Yeah.
that it goes into the company quickly. And that's a key
Yeah, I just hop in.
Right. So from
Yeah.
what we've gathered,
Ready?
so
Here you
far,
go.
JustPaid is
Yep, go on.
Hey Ryan and Rachel, it was an amazing podcast. It was just amazing to be here with you guys. And Daniel also, I think he just changed his hat to a founder mode hat while we were speaking. And can you give us a small closure to this podcast? Can we end the podcast with a small note here?
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. We really appreciate you tuning in, and it means so much to us that you're enjoying the podcast.
It's been a lot of fun to have you join us on this deep dive into JustPaid.
And a founder mode hat. That's amazing. It really speaks to the innovative spirit here.
We're also excited to share all the insights we've gathered, but we still have a bit to go.
Yeah, so we have a lot more we want to get to, and we've got some really exciting stuff lined up.
And while we are aiming to wrap up soon, we don't want to cut the conversation short. We'll make sure to give you a great wrap up.
So let's get right back to it. I think we were about to ask about AI.
Should I end it?
development
Okay.
hurdles.
Yeah, we end it because it just keeps going on. So
Yeah.
Got it.
yeah. So Daniel, how was it? How do you think it was?
I mean, it's definitely very good. I think NotebookLM is almost there. It's a little bit of a delay, so it throws you off a little bit. And they kind of don't, they want you to come into the conversation, but they kind of like fill the air. Like if there's dead air, it'll just keep going and talking and figuring out like what to say. It definitely is not bad conversation. So it's scoured our whole website.
Right.
And just in one URL created a whole 17-minute conversation that we were basically, it kept trying to nudge us to jump into it. So it took me a little time to figure out like I need to hit the join button, and it takes about 3 seconds to like really process what we were saying. But it's pretty awesome. I mean, what do you think, Harshit?
Yeah, I think it was great. I think the AI it's trained in such a way that it's only two people. And because we've given it like a system prompt saying there are 4 people with Daniel and Harshit from the team, now it has context. But the AI inherently is just trained with 2 hosts. And I think this is the worst it's ever going to be, right? And I'm excited about 2025. And maybe there would be something where we don't even have to click on join. And every time we just click on join, it says, hey, do you want to jump in? But maybe it could just be in a more natural way, right? So I think I'm just excited for that one. Just a more natural and seamless conversation.
It's definitely I'm trying to process the difference between this and like ChatGPT. Like a ChatGPT has everything stacked. It's basically like a snapshot of the web in ChatGPT. So it doesn't know how to move forward, but they have a lot of add sources in here where you could just dump sources in. and it creates like this almost like smart professor in a way.
Right.
I mean, ChatGPT is very similar, so I'm trying to distinguish the differences. Like Harshith, from you, I guess asking you a question, like, what do you see the difference between like a ChatGPT and this? Like, what is that?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, that was a question that I was wondering too, because I mean, the last time we tested, there's a call feature as well, right? So
Yep.
the major difference here, I see it's in the training. They trained it to be in such a way that it keeps the conversation in loop and it doesn't give any breaks. Because if we just chat with ChatGPT, there's always a point where it just stops the conversation. It's like, it's ChatGPT just is rushing to stop the conversation and Notebook LM just wants to keep it going. I think that's where the slight training difference is.
Got it. And this is also more podcast format where it's literally like a conversation. ChatGPT, you're not really having a conversation. It's just asking you, what do you need
Correct.
from me? It's not a conversation. It's more, almost like an employee in a sense.
Exactly.
It's like, what do you need from me? How can I help
Yes.
you? What do you need?
Yes.
And this was like, they're literally talking to each other, the two AIs in the room.
Exactly.
Now that we
Exactly.
introduced us, it's like, it's kind of a continual conversation. So you could literally be in a room and not be alone if you just let
Exactly.
this thing play forever. It's almost literally like a podcast where it's like talking to itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And just wanted to know your thoughts on this one. Just coming back to the first point that I mentioned, where podcast hosts are a little skeptical about this tool, thinking what's going to happen to podcasting as a career. And now even we have a proper podcast on the JustPaid channel. So how do you think tools like these would impact podcasts?
I mean, it's hard to replace human to human interaction, but I think when it comes to stagnant data, it's hard for someone to have a podcast about just a book.
Mhm.
Like I listened to this one podcast called Founders, and
Yeah,
the person who does the podcast has to read the book. He read a book about like Henry Ford or Disney, and it takes him probably like a month to highlight. He literally highlights the book, and then he reads off all of his highlights in this podcast called Founders. So that's like there's a delay there of a long time. Here,
right.
it's like almost like you can put content into it and it will immediately create the podcast. It does take time, but instead of it being like a month, it takes 5 minutes, which is way different.
Yeah,
It is more conversational also, which is strange. They have the mode where it's not a conversation, so it'll just talk to itself. It'll be two AIs talking to themselves
yeah,
about whatever you put in. But I mean, the industry of podcasting is going to change. I do think it's great because I love Hacker News. So if you go to Hacker News, that's Y Combinator's like site. There's a lot of information there that's like fluttering through very quickly. I would love it if like Notebook LM would just like summarize the day in like 2 minutes. Like what was the highlights of like a Hacker News? What was the highlights of like a TechCrunch? We did try TechCrunch in here and it does have limitations. Like TechCrunch wasn't allowed, but I don't know the extent of what is allowed, what isn't allowed. It seems like websites are allowed. I think there's other content like PDFs are allowed. So you could, you know, take a web page from and take that and convert it to a PDF and upload it. But I think it's going to change over time. There probably will be visuals later. I love the visual here. Like it was really nice.
yeah.
I guess I mean what you listen to a lot of podcasts, Harshith. Like what do you think is going to change in the world of podcasting?
I think it'll give people more leverage. Um, let's say there's someone who really wants to have a chat with, let's say, Sam Altman, um, or PG, right, or Paul Graham. All he has to do is take every single blog from Paul Graham's website, just dump it into this, and literally have a conversation with PG himself. And I think it just opens up like new data points, right? Instead of it trying to replace podcasters, it's like a new way of learning. I can talk to Paul Graham at the gym, right? It's like that. It becomes more conversational, like consumption of content and learning. I think learning is going to change with this. Yeah.
Interesting. Like one thing that when you hit add sources, so there's a lot of different options here to add on sources. I mean, we tried the YouTube. We tried to like upload a YouTube video. You just put the link in there and then it tries to convert it. It was a long time. So I think there's this like people talk about constraints on the servers. We felt that with YouTube specifically.
Yeah.
You know, there are constraints in this. I mean, other constraints, what if we upload for all the finance people, because we are a finance company, if you upload a financial document and say, have a conversation about this financial document, almost like, you know, when Apple, they do their quarterly earnings report, they do a quarterly earnings call with all of their investors, and then they get their CFO and their CEO and a few other people possibly on this call. Imagine if you could upload a private company's financial information and then have you could hear a conversation between two investors about it in a podcast so that it almost becomes like a prep for everyone that's an investor in a company.
Yeah.
Or, you know, an invoice. Let's have a conversation around a really complex invoice. Like there's some invoices out there. I mean, you know, this is talking about JustPaid. It takes me some of them will take me 10 minutes to really process what is happening in this invoice. If I threw it into this and it had a conversation about like what was happening in it between two people, you might learn faster. But
Yeah.
it creates a virtual like conversation, and people learn through conversation. Like everyone learns through conversation. You're right. You're right. So it's going to become like a huge learning tool. Chat GPT, you don't even know what to ask
Yeah.
sometimes.
That is so true. That is so true.
You know, you might not know
Right.
what to ask it. You might be like, I want to learn about how to become a VC.
Yes.
You have that's the extent of it, and then it pauses and it freezes up. The thing about this is it'll continue.
Correct.
It just continues to spin out more information that you may not have even thought about, like what is a LPA? No,
Yeah.
unless you're an VC investor, you're not going to know what an LPA is.
Yeah.
It's crazy as it sounds, but this would have that. It'll start pulling in other contexts very quickly where you can not even interact and it will talk to itself
Correct.
about LPAs.
Yeah.
So you're right. Now that we're talking through it, I see the differences.
Yeah.
But you know, I really like this interface a lot. Like it's just like pull in any type of context.
Exactly.
They are limiting
Exactly.
to 50 sources. Who knows? This'll change fast because
Yeah.
the world is changing. But I guess like, do you see podcasters going away, Harshith, because of this?
I think there'll be more podcasters actually. Not going, but there'll be more podcasters. I mean, because it's what you just mentioned, right? ChatGPT just stops, and that's what I felt because when I was trying to learn how to code, I just try to learn like completely different topics, like, you know, and when I do that, there's one thing that I always face is I don't know what I don't know, right? So I wouldn't know what question to even ask to get the information from ChatGPT. So I think that's where the gap will be filled. And I think podcasting, I think that there'll be more podcasts with this. I mean, this one, what we just did is also a conversation with AI, and maybe there'll only be people just talking to AI and they'll just be posting it. I think you mentioned the founder of LinkedIn was talking to an AI version of himself and posting it. So yeah, I think we'll have some cool stuff happening.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be like a different world. I love podcasts. I listen to so many. One of the problems with podcasts is context switching, but also
Mhm.
finding the right podcast to listen to. So like there are a lot of bad podcasts out there, right? So with this, you can literally create your own podcast. Like you can upload 50 PDFs of whatever context you want, and then you've got exactly a podcast of what you like want. If
Right.
your professor, okay, so this is where there's a limitation. If you're in school and your professor like hands you 50 PDFs on like chemistry, you could literally have this talk to you all day about chemistry and walk around, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy where you start to like live, breathe, and think about chemistry. Where we didn't have this when I was in school. Like this is, you know, with me, I struggled with chemistry. That's why I wish I had this. You know, maybe you could have like I don't know, how could you learn languages with this? How do you learn about finance with this? Like it sounds like you really like Paul Graham a lot from Y Combinator, their founder. You could upload every source from him. He's got a bunch of stuff, you literally put it all in here. It's literally creates that conversation and it goes on and on.
Yeah.
We haven't tested the limits. Maybe it'll run 50 hours. I don't know. They do put a limit, like 17 minutes. We had a 17-minute like AI podcast ready
Yeah.
before we clicked join the conversation. So it was going to talk for 17 minutes. It might have ended itself, but a lot of this stuff is going to change in the future. So
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, no, this is great, Harshith. Thank you for setting this up. Harshith was really excited about this, everyone. He saw it and was like, this is part of like where the direction of like the world is going. So it's uploading documents and basically getting information about those documents in really fast ways. I think finance is one of those black boxes for a lot of people, like a quarterly earnings report, like an S1 filing for a company going public. It's a really complex document that people don't understand. You could drag that into this and it will have a conversation with itself for 20 minutes about this document and the highlights of it. So I'm definitely going to start to use it way more just because I see its power.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, this is awesome, Harshith.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing it.
Super cool. Super cool. Yeah. And guys, we'll be posting more such content like this. So definitely subscribe to us. And yeah, thanks again.